I said, Mom, I said, there is no way I'm going to go home and leave this man here alone and have him wake up and go, where's everybody at? And going, I think I'm dying. And where's everybody at? I'm not, even the military, right? We never leave a man behind. I said, I'm not leaving this man behind. I will stay here until the end. Well, he's in pretty bad shape, and it wasn't getting better. Very difficult for him to breathe. Very listless, and it was just, on one hand, it was a horrible experience watching this man suffer and die. But I got to be honest, on the other hand, it was probably the closest I've ever been to my father. We don't know who she is, a nurse. And me, my mom, my sister standing there side by side. And she goes, hi, my name's so-and-so. I'm a nurse. I know your father. I read about it, his passing in the obituary. And I just thought I should come down here, one, pay my respect. And two, I want to share something with you that you probably don't know about your father. Right. And I jokingly tell people, I'm like thinking, so what I provide is, I teach the science of success. Now, I'm not a cheerleader, right? I'm not going to tell you, come on, man, you can do it. You're a big sissy. I don't do that. What I teach is the science of success, physics. Even Albert Einstein said that. He said, if you want to be successful, he goes, get on the success frequency. Right? He was really talking about resonance, right?
Yeah.
And he says, not philosophy, and it's not willpower.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NewCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Dale Comstock, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today. And then we want to talk about the amazing things you're doing with coaching, right? The martial arts that you're in, all the stuff that you're doing to help people transform their lives. Thanks again for being here, bud.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. And thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity. I look forward to this podcast just for this purpose. I like to not talk about myself, but I do like to share my experiences. And this is what this is all about, sharing my experience to help people. Ultimately, that's the mission here, is to hopefully improve people's lives, make better versions of themselves, and show them that there's more to this world than probably they know. I've lived in, traveled to, or worked in over 101 countries. In fact, right now, as we're speaking, I live in Bali, Indonesia. It's one of my homes here. I have 3 companies here. I'm married. I live a great life. I've been in Bali for 7.5 years. I've been in Indonesia for 10. But I also live in the Philippines. I have a home there, have family there, and I also have business there. And I also have a home in Panama City Beach, Florida, and I have family there and I do business there. So I travel around the world. I have 3 countries, 3 families, 3 homes, that I manage. A little backstory about who I am, man. This could take a long time, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. And I do speak fast for a reason.
It's okay. Right? It's all right. You're allowed. You're allowed.
Get it all in there.
Get it in there, baby.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm 62 years old first. So it gives you some perspective on my timeline here. My father was in the Army for 20 years. I grew up in Germany. My mother's German. My father was American, lived in American military bases abroad until I was about 15, 16. Moved to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. My dad finally retired, left the military. I was still in high school. I tell you what, a culture shock, man. Growing up in the military, especially during that era, 2 different cultures. And it was a really culture shock when we got out, because suddenly I'm not surrounded by military kids and soldiers and military bases. In fact, the first place we moved when my dad retired was Fremont, California, the Bay Area in San Francisco. And it was very different. And I had a really had a really hard time adjusting. I don't know why. I just didn't fit in. And
how old were you?
Felt, I was 16, 17 at that time. Right. So
that's hard, man.
And so all I wanted to do was go back to the life that I knew, the military. And to to my father's chagrin, I enlisted without telling him on the beginning of my senior year. So I was 17 years old. And then when I told him, I knew I broke his heart because my dad had every intention of sending me to college. I would have been the only one on both sides of the family that had a college degree. And that was his mission, right? And be the one. And I blew that dream up for him, right? So, but then when I realized the error I made, wasn't really a mistake. I broke his heart. So I told him, I said, Dad, don't worry. I said, I'm going to get my college degree, make you proud, and I want to be like soldiers like you, right? It's kind of how I smoothed it over, right? And so, anyways, long story short, I ended up going to the military in 1981. I spent 4 years in 82nd Airborne Division as an airborne infantryman. And some of that time was a long range reconnaissance scout. And then I did reenlist, and I ended up trying out for the Delta Force at the age of 22, 23. I made it, which was like almost impossible, but I pulled that off. That's another story in and of itself. But I was one of the youngest guys at the time to ever make it at the age of 23. The average age was 33. Most guys that make it were Green Berets and Rangers. I was just out of the 82nd. I was an expert in digging foxholes and filling back up. And so, and I could barely grow a beard or mustache, but I was married, had a little girl. And but I had a dream to be a Delta Force operator. And give you a quick perspective. They only run 2 selection courses a year. They pan all the records of everybody in the Army. Now it's everybody in the military. They select 100 candidates twice a year. My class had 110. I don't know why I keep telling people that, but I did count 110. It's supposed to be 100. Of the 110 that started, 6 of us completed the course, 3 of us got selected. That happens twice a year. We've had courses where 1 guy is made. That's how hard Delta Force selection is. There's no comparison to BUDS and SEALs and all these other courses. You go through by yourself. Bottom line is I made it, and that's all that matters. And I did almost 10 years as a Delta Force operator. While I was there in the unit, I had the opportunity to go to a Special Forces qualification course, became a Green Beret, light and heavy weapons expert. Ultimately, I went to Special Forces, 3rd Special Forces Group. I was a team sergeant for an A team, ODA 394. And I did my time up until literally about 2 months before 9/11 happened. I retired. And then I had started a security company already about 6 months earlier. And 9/11 happened. So for me, it was kind of a serendipitous moment because all of a sudden everybody needs security. And I got involved in the nuclear security sector, providing all nuclear security consulting in the private sector. So, and I only had one competitor, and I put him out of business in about 6 months. And we just came in, did it bigger, better, badder is what happened. And so I serviced 42 out of 64 nuclear power plants in the United States. Did really well, made a lot of money. 3 years later, I sold that company to G4S Wackenhut. They bought it. Why did they buy it? Because they're trying to get rid of the competition. And I turned around, reincorporated, built another company called Risk Control Institute. Sold that one in 2011 to another company called Intrepid. And I actually worked for that company, running my company under that umbrella for a few years. And then concurrently, while I was doing all this, so when 9/11 happened, I got recruited by OGA. And so again, working for the government in a different capacity, but doing the same job, but with 1 or 2 other Americans by my side. It was crazy.
And you were out for 2 months? You'd been out for 2 months when 9/11 happened?
Yeah.
Where were you on 9/11?
This is the funnier part, right? So now my company hadn't taken off yet. Right. So
you were still brand new.
Yeah. Right. And I'm transitioning out and trying to build this company. I had a master's degree in business and organizational security management. And that's what I wanted to get into. And so I needed to feed my family. And so I ended up going to a headhunter company. And long story short, I did an interview. I won't mention their company's name, but a glass company, and big glass company, Fortune 250 company. And they hired me to be they brought me as a supervisor, but they hired me to be a superintendent in training, which is a big deal. Not a lot of money, but not bad for a guy getting out of the Army, right? So I did that for about 2-3 months, and I got to tell you, I hated it. I hated it. And I'll tell you why I hated it, because again, there's such a big difference between the military culture and the civilian culture. I'm like, how the hell does the civilian world get anything done? Because they move slow, and there's so many daggone rules, right? I'm like, what the hell? I mean, in the military, I tell Private Schnuffy, hey, I need this, and it's done, right? It's, I need to write this memo, it's done. It's not like in 2 weeks I get one. It's like, but that's been my experience in the corporate world. And I've been all around the corporate world and I've seen how it operates. And there's so many stupid rules and, I mean, oh my God, man, it's like, I don't know how we made it this far. Right. And but anywho, I was doing that and, it was definitely a challenge because here's the problem in the civilian world, right? When you're a supervisor,
Mhm.
a leader, right? Although I don't think a lot of people understand the difference between leaders and managers. The problem is it's hard to lead people that one don't want to be led, don't want to be told what to do, right? And they're always pushing back. Like, why I got to do that? Why don't he do
Mhm.
that? Right? So it's just in the military, you don't have that problem.
Mhm.
So I tell you to
True.
do something, you just get her done. And if you
Mhm.
don't do it, you get an Article 15 or you do push-ups until I get tired, right? And so you don't get that opportunity in the civilian world because everybody's complain, man, right? It's just nuts, man. And I had a real hard time coping, in the civilian world.
Oh, it's an
I
adjustment. It's an
Yeah,
adjustment for sure.
no, I'm telling you what, it's like herding cats,
Yeah,
and I
it
was like,
is. That's
this
exactly
is
what it's
crazy.
like.
It's crazy. And so I realized right away, this is not, I mean, this is a good lesson, great experience. So, I'm glad I got this opportunity to see what it's really like. And, but lucky for me and unlucky for everybody else, 9/11 happened, right?
Yeah.
So boom, when that happened, I got a phone call from Exelon Nuclear Energy up in
Mhm.
Chicago, Illinois. They have 11 nuclear facilities across America,
Mhm.
17 reactors to include 3 Mile Island. And literally called me and said, hey, because the reason they knew of me at this point, my partner and I had a partner, we had gone to an NRC conference up in Chicago
Mhm.
as vendors. We didn't know what we're doing. We went we looked like gorillas in suits. We laid out our table with shiny things on it and brochures, and nobody would approach the table because they were scared of the big gorillas in suits, right? And I wasn't even that big at the time, But it's like, well, how do we get these guys over here to come and talk to us? And we kind of hold up
Mhm.
little flash, shiny things, and trick them to come over here and hey, if you put your card in this jar, we'll give you a knife,
Yeah.
and finally, people softened up to us, like, okay, these guys don't really bite.
Yeah.
And so we got to know some people and they remembered us. And 9/11 happened. That's when we got the phone call. And they said, could you come up here? We'd like to talk to you. And I'm like, I'm on the way right now. And I, I took off from work, went to Chicago, met my partner. And they're like, oh, the last guy we had as a consultant, he got on CNN. He badmouthed the industry. He said basically security guards are used car salesmen and old ladies carrying AR-15s, and he screwed up, right? It's like that was an amateur move, but that cost him everything. And they're like, "How would you like to replace him?" I said, "I'm in, sir." And
Mhm.
boom, like that, we became their primary contractor, and then before you know it, we're basically providing security consulting for the entire nuclear security sector, in all aspects of it. I mean, everything from I don't give response strategies, electronic security, physical security, procedural security, everything. And I did really, really well. So within 3 years, G4S was like, these guys are in our way. We can't get in. And man, we buttoned it down. And and we had intended to sell it. That was a
Mhm.
mission to build this company really big and make it very, very attractive and then sell
Mhm.
it. Because honestly, at the time, we didn't think we didn't think this was going to last a long time. We thought for sure everybody would go back to being complacent. We don't need security anymore, right?
Mhm.
And luckily, well, unluckily, I don't know how you want to look at that. That didn't happen,
Yeah.
right? So, the world has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And so that's why I started the next company after I sold my first one. They made a mistake not making me sign a non-disclosure agreement. So I just rebuilt the company in a different name, doing the same thing. And so I had another company buy me in 2011. At that same time, I was transitioning, so I was working for the government. I
Mhm.
spent about 9 months out of the year downrange, doing the same thing I did in special operations, but again, just with a handful of Americans and a lot of mercenaries,
Mhm.
and probably some of the most dangerous stuff I ever did, but also some of the most exciting stuff I ever did. Never had a job where I had that kind of autonomy, and I used to joke with people. I was like Colonel Kurtz up the river, in Apocalypse Now. I had my own little band of merry men, and I think I'm gonna go out tonight, and go hit that target and smack that guy down and pull his ass back if he survives it, right?
Mhm.
And I basically had very simple instructions, and they were, you know, we were fighting the global war on terrorism, which
Mhm.
we still are, and my mission was to support that and
Mhm.
do what needs to be done to win this daggone war
Mhm.
within limits, of course, not, abuse people and things like that, murder people, but I had a lot of autonomy, and
Mhm.
I was given a lot of freedom to do what needed to be done. as long as I did it, legally, ethically and morally, right? So, and that's why I got selected. So that's another program that was very difficult to get into. But I made it.
Mhm.
So anyways, I did that concurrently, for 10 years. And actually, honestly, I spent almost 9 months out of the year downrange somewhere.
Okay.
It was, but I was still running companies doing it
Yeah.
same time. So 2011 came around, and I got in an ambush, like another ambush, and this one was pretty bad. And I thought, man, if I get out of this one, this is
Mhm.
it for me. I'm 47 at the time,
Yeah.
and I got kids and family. It's like, yeah, you did it all, man. It's a matter of time before I get dunced. I've lost a lot of friends over there, and some really sad stories. And I thought, I did my part, more than my part, and I had another company offer to buy my company at that time. And they said, but they also had, there was also a caveat. I was like, listen, if you can help us get a contract with Shell Oil Company for security, if you can go in
Mhm.
and negotiate that on our part, we'll buy your company, and then you can run your company under us. And, we'll take care of a lot of stuff for you. So I did. I was successful at it, got the contract. They bought my company as promised. I ran my company under their company for a couple of years. I got discovered by Discovery Channel. Um, and then I started doing TV shows. Thought that would be a one-off. Next thing you know, I got NBC calling me, and I'm doing Stars and Stripes with Terry Crews. And then I got a production company surrounding me. Go, we want you to be the poster boy. And next thing you know, I'm in Hollywood faking the funk, so to speak, right, for a couple of years, doing pretty good. Stunts, acting, hobnobbing, and making pretty good money. And then one day came around, realized, you know what, this is not who I am. They're
Yeah.
faking it. I'm not a
Yeah.
faker, man. I'm an action guy. And I was comfortable, but I wasn't comfortable. It was
Yeah.
not, again, I'm outside of, I'm not with my culture. I
Mhm.
guess that's what I'm trying to say, and it was a
Kind of
different
feeling
culture.
like a fish out of water.
Yeah, but I made some good friends, some really
Mhm.
good friends. Man, Terry Crews is one of my best friends out there. I love that
Is
guy,
he as
man.
cool as he seems?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%, man.
Seems like a cool guy.
There's no gray area with this guy, man. He's what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Hands down. Good dude, man. I've met a lot of guys, man, a lot of good guys out there. Dean Kane, Christian Kane, even Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter,
Oh yeah.
actually pretty cool.
She's fierce, isn't she? She's a
Yeah,
good fighter.
she's smart, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit, she's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
but
very
anyways,
smart.
um, I had a good time, but there was something in me, I had another calling, and
Yeah.
I ended up moving to Hong Kong. I lived in downtown Hong Kong for a while. I was helping to run a security detail for a multi-billionaire investment banker for a while.
Mhm.
This is where I met my wife. My wife's Indonesian. And ultimately, she went back to Indonesia, and I did what dudes do. And I followed her back to Indonesia,
Mhm.
and before you know, I'm traveling back and forth from Florida to Indonesia about every 3 weeks. I go there for 3 weeks, back for 3 weeks. Did that for a few years, and then while I was in Indonesia, in Jakarta, in fact, started looking around. I go, man, there's some great business opportunities here in
Mhm.
security, right? I was like, this is really weak.
Mhm.
And so I started networking very quickly. I got on Facebook. I joined an Indonesian group, security group. Say, hey guys, I'm Dale Comstock, American Badass, and here's my book. And just want to say hello and want to join your group, make friends. And that led to me meeting investors, all kinds of people, right? Some pretty affluent people and people in different good positions. And next thing you know, I'm partners with a billionaire in
Mhm.
Jakarta. Um, I started another company with him, and then did that for a while. And then my wife and I just decided one day to pick everything up and move to Bali. We were here 30 days, and we had bought a house. We had an office, got our first contract, and then we started providing security explosive canine detectors or
Mhm.
detector canines, narcotic detectors, and patrol attack dogs for all the Marriott properties
Mhm.
and the local venues and things like that. We've been doing that for 7.5 years now successfully. And in the meantime, we started a bar, and then recently I started another company. It's kind of in another space, more like in mining and things like that. But I've been living the dream. And concurrently, I'm still in the security space. I'm doing a lot of security work, but my security work is niche work in that I help people solve problems, right?
Mhm.
So I don't work for like Blackwater, nothing like that. I haven't worked for anybody, honestly, other than the OGA. But even then, I was a contractor, and I made my own times and told them when I
Mhm.
want to work and not work. So, but yeah, people call and go, hey, my daughter's in trouble in Guatemala. She's actually she's actually Singaporean, but She went to Europe to school, and then thought to have a girls' trip to Guatemala, and thought that would be a good thing. That turned out to be a horrible thing. People, so she's got a lot of problems, and so I had to go get her and bring her back. I've looked for billionaires that were kidnapped in the Middle East. I've walked people out of communist countries across the border to freedom. I've done a lot of weird things that sound really fantastic, but it's all proven. I can prove all of it. So I do stuff like that, and it's exciting, it's dangerous, but it's what I feel good at doing, and it's a lot of risk, and it's kind of like my side hustle because I don't have to. I got all this other stuff that makes money. I make coaching, all this other stuff, but I maximize my time. I've done mercenary work, like legitimate mercenary work. I know it's got a bad connotation to it. When you think mercenary, it's like a hooker, right? A prostitute. The world needs them either way, right? But I got hired by countries to come and do the work, especially work that they didn't have the capability of doing. And these were good countries. They were in alignment with the U.S. government. And I'm not a murderer. I'm not a killer for money. I'm a professional soldier. And there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet about that. BBC did a documentary, which was all hyped up. But that's like I said, I could take the whole hour talking about me, but I don't want to do that. So that kind of gives you a general overview, who I am, what I do. I speak multiple languages, German. I was trained in Portuguese. My Spanish is better than Portuguese. Speak a little bit of Bahasa, not much, just the basic, like 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, 1 more beer, those kind of important stuff like that. But
those are important, man.
Of course they are. You got to hearts and minds, right? You got to fit in, but I got a bachelor's degree in education. I've got the master's degree in business and organizational security management with a PhD in alternative medicine and natural health. Those are my degrees.
You made good on your promise to your dad.
I made all the promises. In fact, and so if you don't mind, I'm going to say something about that real quick, because before everybody turns off the podcast, I don't want to hear this guy's BS anymore. I'm going to give you one gold nugget, man, that hopefully changes your life and makes you see things a little bit different. It's something that happened with my father, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. And I usually don't. I actually just started talking about it in the last few podcasts that I've done, because I've kind of finally occurred to me how important it really is and how important it was to me. So what I'm going to say this is, my dad taught me the best lesson of my life after he died. Okay. Now, how's that happen? How did you teach your lesson after he died? So here's the story. And again, I'm gonna give you the short version of it. So my dad was my hero. He didn't want me to go to the military, wanted me to go to college. I went anyways, but my dad was my hero. He was a really good man. And I would call him every week in the military. Hey, Dad, how's it going? By the way, this is what I'm doing. I want to do this. Hey, Dad, I got a problem. What would you suggest? Maybe it's personal, maybe it's professional. My dad always had the answers. And even if he didn't have the answer, he gave me good guidance all the time. He was my counselor. He was my father. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And so every day, man, for 20 years I was in the Army plus. And then back in 2011, 2012, he calls me one day. My mom's crying on the phone. I don't know what's going on. He goes, son, I got cancer, stomach cancer, very aggressive, very rare. It's like the cancer of cancers, right? So, I told my dad, I said, you're not going to die of cancer. Why? Because I understand cancer. I have, degrees in alternative medicine, and cancers. If you don't know what you're doing, it's bad, but it's not always the kiss to death. And I've got some theories on that. Actually, not even theories, science on it. But I wish I knew more then. I wish I knew then what I know now about it. He'd still be alive. Unfortunately, I didn't. So I said, Dad, you're not going to die. I'm going to do everything I can to keep you alive with what I know. And actually, he survived the cancer. So he did have 2/3 of his stomach removed. So like 4 months later, and went through some weirdness right in the hospital with the I guess the anesthesia did something, but he kind of had like schizophrenia. He did some weird stuff, and we're like, oh man, is he ever going to come back up here? Right? He's running down the hallways doing weird, but he did. He finally came back, and I remember one day sitting on the couch with my dad at his house, and he's laying on the couch watching Fox News. That's what he always did, right? And we're sitting there, and we're talking about what happened to him, and I said, well, Dad, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're still alive, because he was 71, and he's like, well, I'm not ready to die. I don't want to die. I got a lot of stuff to do. And my dad worked out a lot. He walked a lot. He put down cigarettes and alcohol a long time ago. And he really did want to live longer. And he had a lot he wanted to do. And I said, I'm glad to hear that, Dad. Glad to hear that. So about a month later, my mom called. She's crying. My dad had a serious lung infection, probably because his immune system was compromised. And it was so bad that within 24 hours, he gave him a massive heart attack. Didn't kill him, but it put him in ICU for 3 months. So I'm living in Florida at the time. So I go up to Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I basically stayed in ICU with him for 3 months. They gave me a bed, put a bed in there, and I just stayed there with my dad. I wouldn't leave. Only time I left was my mom would relieve me in the morning. And I'd go take a shower, and buy some more pokey bait and regroup, and come back, and then plan on staying there for the day through the night. And I remember my mom telling me, well, son, your dad's gonna be sleeping. Just come on home. It's okay. I said, Mom, there is no way I'm gonna go home and leave this man here alone and have him wake up and go, where's everybody at? And going, I think I'm dying. And where's everybody at? I'm not, in the military, right? We never leave a man behind. I said, I'm not leaving this man behind. I will stay here until the end, whether we walk out here together or not. That's what I'm going to do. So I did. I stayed for 3 months. And so I remember 2 months into it, the doctor called my mom and I into his office and said, listen, we think we need to whole life support. My dad had tubes, hoses, wires, and everything just coming all out of his body, man. He was like Frankenstein at this point. He's in pretty bad shape, and it wasn't getting better. Very difficult for him to breathe. Very listless, and it was just, on one hand, it was a horrible experience watching this man suffer and die. But I got to be honest, on the other hand, it was probably the closest I've ever been to my father. Being able to just sit there with him. And even though he couldn't answer me, just talk to my dad, just talk to my dad, and every now and then he'd give me a little nod, little thumbs up, and I remember he did say, and I remember, I remember one conversation. It wasn't much of a conversation. And I kind of had this feeling I probably need to say this now. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, don't you worry about Mom. I said, you won't worry about Mom. I will take nothing. She'll be taken care of. I promise, So that's kind of when I kind of reconcile that this might not go the way I'm hoping, right? Yeah. And then the doctor comes in again. So at the 2-month mark, he goes, I think we should pull the life support, right? And my mom shocked me. My mom and dad were married for like 56 years, and my mom was like in agreement, like, yeah, I think you're right, And it's not because she don't love my dad; she just felt like that was the thing to do. And I thought about what my dad said on the couch that day, and I go, no, not no, but hell no. I said, my dad don't want to die. I said, I don't care what he looks like. My dad's a fighter. He told me he wanted to live, just like I'm not, he's not giving up. I'm not giving up. Yeah. And no, we ain't life support, right? He wants to go out swinging. That's what he's going to get to do, And so the doctor, my mom was like, well, okay then, right? I was pretty adamant about it. And so a month goes by, and then we had the conversation again. This time the doctor was like, all right, your dad's reached the end of his life. His kidneys have shut down from all the antibiotics. There's no going back. It's over, right? And so we put him in a hospice for about a week. And then he passed. And, and so now I've got this issue, right? The issue is, everybody out here has ever experienced this. They know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of things you got to do when somebody dies, right? And you don't have a lot of time to do it. The window's pretty small, a couple of days, 3 days, insurance. I had to get the casualty assistance officer from Fort Bragg to come out and talk to my mom about her benefits, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, my dad wanted to be cremated. Okay, we got to buy an urn. We got to figure out how that's going to happen. A memorial service. There's a lot of moving parts. And I'm looking over my mom, my sister, and they're in no condition. They're over there boo-hoo. And I'm like, well, somebody's got to do this. And it's on me, right? And my hero, it's my hero, right? And so all I want to do is cry too. But I didn't shed it. I didn't cry. And the reason I didn't cry, well, besides being a man, moreover, I'm also a leader. And now I'm the leader of the family, right? And so leaders maintain their poise. That's what you should be doing, right? As a man, you provide and protect. And your women don't want to see you boo-hooing, okay? They might say it's okay, but no, it's not okay. That's just me, my perspective as a man. Call me an asshole if you want. I don't care. But, what's gotten me where I'm at today. And I think men need to lead. And men need to, man up. And so that was my responsibility as a soldier, as a son, and as a father, and as a brother. So I had to do all the heavy lifting and got her done. And then everything was done. So we had the memorial service. We're like right at the end of this whole ordeal. And I remember sitting in the front row of the church, and the priest is the preacher is giving a sermon, and he gets done. And he looks at me. He goes, would you like to come up and say something on behalf of your father? And I'm doing everything I can to hold in the tears, man. I'm like, really, like, just hold as high heart I can. I just want to bust out crying. And I'm looking at him, I was thinking, there's no way I could go up there and say it.
Yeah.
I will lose it, man. Yeah. There's nothing going to come out of my
Guaranteed,
mouth.
right? Yeah.
Crying, right? And I was like, I just kind of go, I'm good, right? And he knew, right? He's like, no problem. And so we ended the service. we all formed up in the back of the church. They had the, I got the 82nd Airborne Division to provide honor guard to do the 21-minute salute. My dad deserved it. He's a Vietnam vet. And by the way, he
Very
died
cool.
from complications of Agent Orange, is
Yeah.
what it turned to be,
Yeah.
right? So we're on the back, ripping and grinning and hugs and condolences. And then this lady walks up. We don't know who she is, a nurse. And me and my mom, my sister stand there side by side. And she goes, "Hi, my name's so-and-so. I'm a nurse. I know your father. I read about, his passing in the obituary, and I just thought I should come down here, one, pay my respect, and two, I want to share something with you that you probably don't know about your father." Right. And I jokingly tell people, I'm like thinking, "Oh, got a kid together. He goes, you're married. Where's this going to go?" Right. And so I'm looking at her like, okay, what do you got? And she's like, so this is what she told us. So my dad apparently had been coming, she worked at a nursing home, and there was this very old lady there, had no family, been abandoned by her family. She had no friends. She was all alone. They left her there to die. Right. And, but my dad knew of her. And for the last several years, my dad would come by every day for an hour, and he would bring her flowers, chocolates, newspapers, magazines, whatever she asked for. And even if she didn't ask for, he brought it, brought her
Wow.
gifts. He could sit there for an hour and just shoot the shit with her, just talk to her, be a friend,
Wow.
be a family member, right? And give her somebody, right? And he did that every day. Nobody knew that. The only person that knew that was the nurse. It was the best kept secret ever.
Wow.
And when she told me that, I'm looking at my mom. I said, "You didn't know?" She said, "I don't know. Nobody knew." And I was stunned, man. I was sort of like, damn, that is like the most altruistic thing I've ever heard in my life. I said, my dad did that. Wow. It's like, how do you top that? This man did something for somebody else and didn't want a pat on his back, didn't want no recognition. He just did something. He carved out 1 hour of his life every day for somebody else
Yeah.
and spent his
That's a big
money.
deal.
Right. And so I sat there and I thought, man, that's my dad. That's my hero, man. And so I thought, what can I do, man? I got to do the same. Not that exactly, because I don't want to steal his thunder, but you got to, so I'm thinking, and I do things, and I'm not going to tell people what it is because that's the point, right?
Yeah.
You do it from your heart. And I do things, and it feels really good to do that. And it feels really good to do that. And I've gotten so much into it that really my objective in life is to help people. That sounds even crazier, but really everything I do in life, it really always has been. I mean, being a Delta Force operator, my job was hostage rescue.
Yeah.
I love helping people hostages. I've done this. I do it to this day as a private security guy. People call me, and I've literally gone and gotten people back on my own. I've risked it all. I've risked everything, my life, my freedom, my family, to go help other people because it's something that's really important. And I always think about my father. My father's watching. We're all watching. We don't ever die. And so that motivated and inspired me to change my life and be a better person and do something for other people. Right. And even there's a lot of people out there that just don't deserve it. They don't deserve shit. And usually I just ignore them and move on to the next person that does. But even those that are just total idiots and really turds, sometimes I'll bend over for them as well. But if everybody on this planet did that, just give a little bit of yourself to somebody else and without expecting anything back, the world would be just that much better, right?
1000%. Dale, do me a
Absolutely.
favor. We're going to take a break real quick. When we come back, we're going to talk about the amazing things you're doing to transform people's lives through the life coaching that you're doing. We'll be right back.
Sure.
Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back with Dale Comstock. And what we were talking about before the break was this amazing thing that you learned from your dad and how it's motivated you to give back and basically make the world a better place. Really quickly, can you talk just briefly about, you're a certified life coach and you're an author and you're helping people. Talk about what you're doing, because you have therapies that you're offering. You have all kinds of things that you're doing to help people completely transform their health, completely transform their lives. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So, this is the craziest thing too. So I have multiple companies. I do really well financially. It's not a big deal. Um, and there's a lot of responsibility goes with running these businesses and these companies,
Mhm.
right? I do share responsibilities. Moreover, you know, I also, like, for example, the security company I got here, before COVID, I had 65 canine handlers. COVID happened, what a scam that was. And I couldn't sustain the company with that many people. And we had to let 55 guys go, which means 55 men and their families didn't get a paycheck, right? During some of the hardest times imposed on us by a bunch of crooks and charlatans out there. That's how I'm
Mhm.
going to call it what it is. You can disagree with me all you want, but that was a hoax. Yeah, the virus might have been real, but it was not deadly. It was not real deadly. But anyway, and so, you know, I- with that said, I want to help people, and although I run these businesses, and I could do fine without coaching. Um, Coaching's actually my passion.
Yeah.
I I got I have more money than most people can ever think of, right? And I got a lot of responsibilities. I got a lot of things to do, and that I could be doing. I could put my time into my wife and my
Mhm.
kids, everything else, right? But that's not what's so important. What's really important is helping coaching people. And I do it for like nothing. The only thing I ask is for people to compensate for my time,
Mhm.
because I do have responsibility, business partners, my family, things like that. And so I've been life coaching for about 7.5 years. My daughter, one of my oldest daughters, she was a business coach for women, right? So that was her
Mhm.
niche, right? Women entrepreneurs, internet marketing, blah, blah, blah. She calls me one day and she thought I would do really well in this area, right? She's like, "Dad, Grant Cardone, I watch all these guys, they got nothing on you,
Mhm.
and
It's
so
true.
she
It's
talked me
true.
through it. Yeah, well, I always joke about those guys, Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, they all lay in bed together, looking at each other, going, "I wonder what it'd be like to be Dale Comstock,"
Mhm.
because they can never buy my experience.
Right.
My
That's what I'm
experience is
saying.
my wealth.
That's
My
what I'm
experience is
saying.
my wealth.
What you bring to the table is truly unique. And the
It's
passion that you have to give back, right, and make this world a better place, man, that's a big deal. That's a
yeah,
big
no, it
deal.
is. Yeah,
So if
and
somebody if somebody came and hired you today to be their life coach, what's the very first thing you would do?
well, the first thing I do, well, I interview everybody, not because what I want to do is find out a little bit about them,
Yeah.
where are you today? What's going on? Where do you want to be type thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I would also tell you this, most of the people that come to me are men.
Yeah.
Demographics wise, probably 99% of the people I've coached, which is over 400 in the last
Mhm.
7 years, are all men. I've
Yeah.
coached, I think, about 7 women. I can count them on two hands. And probably half of those were just wanted to talk about their marriage and how bad it was and how bad their husband was. I'm not a marriage therapist, I'm here to help you be the better version of yourself.
Right.
Uh, and sometimes they don't know when to stop talking. Like, Jesus, can I do some coaching now? Right? Okay, whatever.
Right.
But it's dudes that come to me, and there's three kinds of guys that come to me. There's what I call the old man clan. They're men from
Mhm.
45 to 60. They're the guys that tried to do the right thing, got married, put a roof over their head, put kids to college, and then the kids went to college, and then, mom doesn't want to talk to dad. Dad looked in the mirror, go, "Damn, I think I'm 9 months pregnant." And then look at Comstock and go, "Hey, how do I live your life?" Right. And
Mhm.
so I have those kind of guys. That's the bulk of the guys that come to me. The second group are men from 33 to 37. They tend to be more the entrepreneurial spirited guys, and business guys. And so a little bit of different mindset, they're more interested in how do we build business. I built lots of companies and businesses. And then the third group are young men from 19 to 26 that are either in the military or want to go in the military special
Mhm.
operations. So I have a mentorship program for that. And every now and then I get a woman that comes along that's interested also. And I've had some good ones. I'm not saying they're all bad. They're not. I've had some good ones. And but anywho, so what I provide is I teach the science of success.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not a cheerleader, right? I'm not going to tell you, "Come on, man, you can do it." You're a big sissy. I don't do that. What I teach is the science of success, physics. Even Albert Einstein said that. He said, if you want to be successful, he goes, get on the success frequency. Right? And he's
Mhm.
really talking about resonance, right?
Yeah.
And he says, not philosophy, and it's not willpower, it's not hard work, and it's not. Um, Honestly, I'm probably one of the laziest people on the planet, right? That's what's so ironic. It's like I don't like the work, and so, but I have done some really hard work. I've done
Mhm.
construction work, done the military. I've done some of the hardest stuff you could possibly do. And I didn't, and I enjoyed it. I didn't really care for it, but I did it because if you want to be successful in life, you're going to have to be willing to do the hard work. Everybody wants the easy way out, right? Everybody wants the entitlements route. I deserve this because I'm me. Look at me, I'm beautiful. Whatever it is, right? Everybody has this mindset. Everything should just become easy to them. And honestly, the people that are successful in this world are the people that put in the time. If you want to be successful, it's not an 8 to 5 endeavor. It's a 24-hour endeavor every day, right? And your mind is always working. You're always learning. You're always watching, right? And so I show people the process, and I have to take them through this course. It's almost 9 weeks long. It's 20 hours of form instruction on my part, and we go through different phases, because if I went right to the magic phase towards the end, nobody would get their head around it. It's very hard to understand. Most people don't have I'm not gonna say they don't have the intellectual capacity, they don't have the education and the experience to really grasp it, right? And so they think it's some kind of voodoo, psychobabble, whatever, witchcraft stuff. No, it's actually, it's not. It's physics, it's science, and I prove it at the end. But I got to build up to it, because the average person won't understand it. So I go through different things, like I actually talk about nutrition and all the lies that we've been told about nutrition and are still being told every day, right? Like cholesterol is bad, salt's bad, blah blah blah. Cancer is a disease. We have cancer DNA. None of that stuff's true. It's all lies, right? And that's the craziest part. So I sort all that out, and I prove it, and I show the evidence, and I show people how to make better nutritional choices in their life. Not saying you got to eat, rabbit food. In fact, I'm on a carnivore diet. All I eat is meat. That's all I've been eating for the last couple of years. I'm 61. I'm still getting it, right? So I go through that, and then ultimately we go into managing stress. That's a good one. I dig really deep into stress management, because we all have stress. And guess what? When you start going down the road of entrepreneurship or whatever it is you want to do, it gets hard. It's supposed to get hard, right?
It is hard, Anything that's worth it is, right?
Exactly, right? And so the stress that comes with it, and this is why people give up. I have 4 tenets for success, 4 tenets. First one is purpose, right? What's your purpose, mission, goal, objective, right? You got to establish that. That's actually easy. The second one, you got to have a plan. Why a plan? Because plan provides clarity. Okay. And plan doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to start somewhere. And then finally, the plan aligns itself with the purpose. But the third thing you have to have is passion, right? Passion is the engine of success. Without that, nothing happens. But guess what? When things get hard, passion dies. Like, I just too hard. I don't want to do this.
That's
and then
true.
the excuse come out. I think I got dyslexia, or I got this and that. I've heard my ex-wife say that kind of stupid stuff, right? It's all excuses, right? I call them dream killers. And sometimes they're your friends, your family, they tell you why you can't do stuff, everybody's going to keep you from meeting your objective for sure. They want to, because it's a reflection on them, on their failures, right? And so it's going to get hard. And it's supposed to get hard, but that's okay. Let it get hard. If you lose the passion, it's expected. But you have one more tenet. It's the emergency parachute. I call it discipline, right? Pull out the discipline when it's time. Okay, I don't want to do this anymore, but you know what? I know what the mission is, the objective is. I'm going to stay on task, and I'm going to get up at 0500 in the morning. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get behind the computer. I'm going to do all the hard work, even though I don't like it. I'm going to do it, because I know if I do it right and I do it long, I stay consistent, persistent, eventually I'll meet the objective. So I teach guys that part, and that has stress, right? So how do we manage the stress? You got a question?
So how fulfilling is it?
Man, it's the most fulfilling thing I ever do.
You're taking them from here to here, right? I mean, how fulfilling is it to know that you're a big part of that change, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I'll tell you how confident I am. And how good I am and I'm not bragging, but I'm so confident I have a money back guarantee. I tell people, look, at the end of the training, if you're not happy, you don't feel like you learned something. If I haven't changed your life, I'll give you money back. No problem. It's not even a lot of money. It's a couple $1,000. It's like nothing, man. People look at me like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, I'm not doing it for the money, man. I'm doing it because I want to help people. And if you didn't think I helped you, here's your money back. Go find Tony Robbins or whoever, right?
The best thing about this is you're leaving the world a better place than the way you found it, which is exactly what your dad wants you to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what he was about. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's the cool thing, is that legacy that you're leaving. That's just absolutely invaluable, dude. Absolutely invaluable.
Here's the thing, right? I think my dad's watching me every day.
Oh, I guarantee you is.
I tell you this right now. Okay. we don't ever die. Our bodies are simple carbon-based matter. Yeah, it dies and it turns into worm dirt, right? But what happens to the energy that's in, right? The energy that's within us with the bioelectricity, that's what we have inside of it, right? If you think about the laws of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred. Where's it going when I die? It
Right.
goes back to the universe, okay? Now, this is the part where people go, that's a bunch of psychobabble, blah, 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 right? So, you know what? You keep on thinking that, and you look in the mirror, and look around your wallet, you look at what you got, and ask yourself, is what you're thinking working for you right now? Are you where you want to be? Are you living the dream life? Did you know 99% of the people that die live a life unfulfilled? That's based on studies out there. 99% of people at their deathbed go, damn, I wish I would have done that. Damn, I wish I would have jumped out of an airplane. I wish I would have scuba dived. I wish I would have spent more time with the grandkids. Man, I wish I would have had a threesome, foursome, or a fivesome. You know, and it just, why didn't you do it? Oh, and then all those excuses come out, right? So, you know, you make all the excuses you want, you know, and so I take them through this whole phase, and we go into conscious thoughts, right? We talk about challenging your paradigms. You know, what do you believe and why do you believe it? Who told you that? Why do you think it's true? Right? And then you realize that by the time you're 40 years old, half the information in your head is actually false or skewed. And you've been making life decisions with bad information, not realizing it. You go, I know everything. How come it's not working? Did you ever think that maybe you don't know anything? It's all wrong. Who told you that? Right? And
so we're wrapping this up. So DaleComstock.com to get the best training out there. And you actually have therapies and different things that we haven't gone into today, but we'll have you back and we'll go into them. Okay.
Absolutely. Anytime,
Thanks
man.
again for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience, buddy. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.